Hey, welcome back. I'm Daniah with the Tree of Life Bible Society, and I have my friend Dr. Jeffery Seif with me today, our project manager for the Tree of Life Bible. We've been having a good time chatting. We've been friends for how many years now?
Oh, over a decade, I
Over a
believe.
decade, right?
And that's a long time for me to keep a friend.
Well, that's good to know.
Usually I wear them out after 1 or 2 years, but you've been patient.
Dr. Seif and I have been working on the TLV for a long time. We both have unique interests in the Bible, so we're going to just talk about the stuff that matters to us. So I have all these interesting questions I want to talk to you about. I thought I would start with if you remember. Do you remember me sending you books over these past years, little treasures that I would find on eBay and studying Jewish artwork?
Yes.
I sent you a few.
Yes.
I sent you a family Bible, the Holy Scriptures, right? I sent you this book right here, this one here, which is called Pathways Through the Bible. And this, I think, is one of my treasured possessions. I've probably bought, it would be truthful to say I've bought at least 40 of these over the past decade and given them to people. This book, Pathways Through the Bible, was done by the Jewish Publication Society. And the reason that it fascinated me is because back when I was, thinking about doing the children's Bible, like 17 years ago, I was looking for Jewish Bibles that had artwork. And this was the only one I found. I was, of course, looking on the internet for a Jewish Bible, didn't know that they were called Holy Scriptures. So this Bible led me on a journey where I started to understand the difference between Jewish art and Christian art, and why there wasn't a lot of Jewish art in Bibles or in Holy Scriptures. So this book here has pictures in it, and all of the pictures in it, I don't know if you probably don't remember, but all of the pictures in it, like this is David brings the ark to Jerusalem, all the pictures in it were black and white, and they were pictures of people. And they even have a picture in here for Messiah, and he's holding an olive branch, which I thought was interesting. But the reason that this book fascinates me is because the last time we were hanging out together, we were talking about the difference from when Tyndale, right, created the first. Tell me who Tyndale is and explain that again so that I understand it.
Well, if you're looking at Wycliffe and Tyndale,
yeah.
I believe it was Wycliffe who came first, who tendered a translation in the Bible in the English language from the Latin, from Jerome's Vulgate. But then later on, there was a rendition that came actually from the Hebrew and the Greek, the Tyndale Bible.
Tyndale.
Wycliffe, Tyndale, I might have them in reverse order, but that's the nature of it.
What year would that be? Would you give us an idea?
Goodness.
Just an idea, like to the century, 1500s?
So, back there, yeah.
Okay, so in the 1500s or so, we have Wycliffe and Tyndale, and they're rendering translations. Tyndale's got it from the Hebrew and the Greek, and Wycliffe got it from the Vulgate.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yes.
Hey, look at me, I'm learning something.
Or else I flipped it, or have the names backward. But,
okay.
But that's the gist.
But that's the gist of it. Okay,
yes.
great. So the reason I'm asking that question is because what I kind of discovered was that in looking for Jewish Bibles, so I get on eBay and I start like looking for interesting artifacts when it comes to Jewish Bibles and Jewish art. I'm an art enthusiast. And that's probably why the Bible Project started with Michael's art, because I just loved it so much. But but in finding this book, what blew my mind about it was that, having studied a lot of Christian Bibles, is I realized that what they did is they wove a story together of scriptures and what we would call commentary, or the person who put the book together, their ideas and thoughts. And then they put in pictures of individuals, not pictures of God, because that's not allowed to do that. And then the third thing they had in here, which was mind-blowing for me, was drawn pictures of Israel, the state of Israel before it was Israel, in hopes.
Before it was modern Israel.
Before it was modern Israel, right. So what I found really interesting about it is that that made me look at the JPS, right, the 1917 edition, was the first Holy Scriptures in English, and it was actually made off of the King James, believe it or not. So I started researching why would the JPS come out with a book like this? Well, I started looking at little at army Bibles. I don't think I have one with me here. I think I have those at home, but I have these little pocket Bibles. And was it Roosevelt? Do you remember? I gave Simi one of them. FDR. Okay, so Franklin Delano Roosevelt, he put these little pocket Bibles together for World War II. And there would be Jewish ones and there would be Christian ones. And I was looking to see what was in them, because obviously you can't put the whole Bible in a pocket Bible. So all of that led to the fact that this book came out in America and it sold like 30,000 copies, which is a lot for that time period.
What year?
This was actually done in, I'm going to look at, this is what I wanted to talk about. So this was the actual cover of it shows the Torah scroll, but it says on it, this Bible is for the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. That was on the cover of this book on a black jacket. I don't have one of those with me here in the studio. But it came out in, the first impression was 1946, right? So when was the war exactly? It went from what year to what year?
Well, it ended in 45.
It ended in 45. So the year after that, so this is what I'm thinking happened, and I just would love your thoughts on it, is that these soldiers have been in the trenches together, side by side, right? And the ones that come home from the war, they hung out with their Christian brothers and the people fighting for our country. And then they come home and they don't have a Bible because they're called Holy Scriptures. And so the JPS put out this, so that if you looked up the word Bible and it was by the JPS, it was an attempt to regather our people back to the Scriptures. And the JPS came out in 1917 and it used that text. So they're the precursors to this Bible that we use, this one here. Here I go, getting up out of my chair. But this is the current JPS, right? So from the JPS an original edition, which is this one, here it is. This is the 1917 Rose Seltzer's copy. And then this is the current JPS, same organization, Jewish Publication Society out of Philly. But this book here came out, this is 17, this is 40, was it say 6 or 7? 46?
That's what you said, yeah.
And then this is today. And the JPS is a translation here in America in English that is considered the standard for the majority of Jewish people here. I know a lot of people use the Art Scroll, but that's for more of an Orthodox crowd. Would you say that's accurate? That's how I understand it.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, because that one is up there. But the point is that can you imagine what it would be like if you were in the foxhole with somebody? They're reading the same exact book, looks the same, feels the same, but one's Christian and one's Jewish. And then all these soldiers come home from the war, and all those walls between being Jewish and Christian, they had to be there for each other to survive the war. So I think so that's kind of one of the reasons that brought me to the place where I realized that could you talk to us just a little bit about how what Gold's in My Ear and how the modern state of Israel kind of came into being? Do you know anything about how that came into being?
Well, sure.
Because her story is done by the JPS too. And so all of this is historical in America, but it led to a Jewish Bible in America. And it really sent me on a wonderful trajectory, which is kind of what moved me to know that our kids needed a Bible.
Okay.
My thoughts on it.
I mean, there's a lot in there, and you were touched by the JPS renditions and the artwork and the narrative. And you want me to land on the history of modern Israel, or do you want me to touch upon something else first? What's your pleasure?
No, my question is, people have asked me many times, what made you do this? Like what would put you on a trajectory for trying to make a Bible for children? And what I realized is that the schism between Judaism and Christianity, we needed a biblical text that worked for both. And I started searching about that through artwork by going back to what was published at World War II.
Okay.
So wherever you want to go from there is good
so
with
that's,
me.
That's your journey. Now,
Yeah.
in terms of pathways through the Bible, which is there's also another book, Pathways Through Jewish History, that's produced. The pathways motif, going through history, kind of abides in the Jewish world.
Mm-hmm.
But to your question about Israel's emergence, it precedes that. There are actually 5 waves of immigration where Jews began making the journey back from Europe to the ancestral homeland. It began in 1882. And it was precipitated by anti-Semitism. Sometimes necessity is the mother of invention. Things deteriorate in the home country, and it prompts you to look over the horizon.
Right.
There were a number of things at play. The immigration back to Israel, the first official wave was in 1882. There were just shy half a dozen of them, 5 actually, that facilitated the birth of the modern nation state. There's more subsequently. But the genesis of it was Jews being hounded and harangued all over Europe, Eastern and Western Europe. And Jews began thinking, listen, there's just no way to beat this. They hate us no matter what we do. They don't like us because we're different. So we try and assimilate, speak the language, wear the clothes, and get absorbed in the various nation states. And they hate us because we're assimilating. There's just no way to win. And so there were that really anti-Semitism was the genesis when people started looking to the ancient Near Eastern world, of the homeland. Now a lot stayed put. It's hard to uproot and move, but it was that principally that necessitated, in the mind's eye of Jews, to find their own land. There was resistance to Israel, interestingly. There was a bid on the table for Uganda. There was a deal.
Really?
Yeah, there was
Why
a deal.
Uganda?
Because there was a deal to purchase land there. And if Jews went to Uganda, then you're not unsettling Arab neighbors roundabout that are disconcerted in principle by a Jewish presence. Now, there were Jews in Israel before 1882. You have these religious Jewish communities in the land, but they're small. They're not very industrious. They're supported by the largesse, by the giftings from Jewish communities, religious Jewish communities around the world. But this younger set wanted to get in there and carve out the land and build and what have you. And Uganda was on the table. Interestingly, however, that it was this, no, wait, we belong to Israel. That's the ancestral land.
Right.
We need to make our bid there. There's an inextricable relationship between the Hebrew religion, the Hebrew people, and the Hebrew land, which probably speaks to why you see landscape
It was shocking to me.
Yeah.
It was shocking to me that they would begin to draw it and begin to believe for it. And and there's last plug on the artwork, but so when in looking for art, I looked for, there's an artist called Saul Raskin, and I started collecting his books. And while you're telling me the story about Israel, he does a lot of pictures, and he has one in here of them wanting the homeland back and them dancing into the land. So keep talking to me about what happened.
No. I think the discussion of the art is more interesting than the discussion of history, quite frankly.
Well, the art here in this book is crazy interesting to me.
Yeah, well, I think that's part of the genius of the Tree of Life Bible, quite frankly. And now you're talking to someone, my job in the system as the project manager was manage the scholars and manage the production of text. But I think the visuals associated with it in the form of the art is of equal importance to the literature itself, because people are so stimulated by visuals. Visuals as a media of communicating are 60,000 times more potent visual stimuli than auditory stimuli.
What?
Yes, if you read something, let's say you're looking at a white page with black letters and you're reading through it, there's syllables that form words and sentences, and as the mind goes through that and plays it in the brain, there's auditory stimuli, just that come from words. And certainly that has a certain impact on the cortex, but visuals are 60,000 times more potent. Even as we talk now, you see me, there's tonal inflection, there's visuals, you read my face, you read my body language. Am I directing myself toward you, or am I like,
Right.
I mean, there's a sense in which we pick up cues in the way that we communicate. Visuals are just much more potent. If you look at Jesus as a teacher, he's a storyteller, and he's painting on the mind.
Right.
So went out to sow seed, and some fell on this and some fell on that. It has the net result of painting on the cerebral cortex, and it's extremely vivid. It communicates much more clearly. And personally, I think that the genius of the TLV is, with it, there's a rendition of the literature that just kind of breathes Jewish idiom. But beyond that, there's visuals that do much the same, very potently. And the picture tells 1,000 words.
It's really true. So as I started this, so I worked with Michael for like 9 years. I would think of a place in the Bible where I just desperately wanted people to look, like for example, when you want to explain to somebody that the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. I wanted that picture of the body of Jesus unrolling from a scroll, because it was so moving for me. And when I saw it, I went and found Michael and we started working on the artwork. But what I didn't know about the difference between Jewish art and Christian art is so I started buying up all these books, of these ancient books of Jewish art. And in this one here, it talks about, thy hands have made me and fashioned me, give me understanding that I may learn thy commands. So I used to go to conferences and show Jewish art to people. And this picture, look at the guy's face. He has the hands of God on him, but it's not some sweet feeling of, oh Lord, you're comforting me. It's more like he's being crafted, and the fear of the Lord is in his eyes. You can see it. And so I think that kind of art, it was just so impactful to me to be able to think about the Jewish experience and relationship with God. I learned a lot, as opposed to...
Well, yeah, there's that. I'd hold that up for the camera.
Yeah, isn't it amazing? It's an amazing picture.
And again, I mean, if as you look at it, you might never forget it.
Yeah.
And it is true that you alighted upon the look on his face, which isn't even part of the text.
Exactly.
I've been wonderfully formed. Your hands have formed me. Even the biblical expression, God's hands have formed me, is a problematic expression. It's what's called an anthropomorphic ascription. Anthro is man, morphe is form. There's God's hand. Does he have fingernails? Is God left-handed or right-handed? What do we even mean by the expression, your hands have formed me?
I love that. I love that.
No, don't put it. No, don't.
I'm not going to put it down.
I mean, so what happens? Even an expression like that is working with a visual image. It's poetry. The language itself breathes with art to paint on the mind.
The language itself breathes with art.
I don't know that God has hands, or it says, and God saw so and so. He has eyes. I'd imagine the vision is at least 20/20. God hears our prayers. Does he have an ear? Is there an eardrum that vibrates with all these syllables? God sees. Noah made an offering. It says God smelled the offering. He has a nose. Is it as big as mine? I mean, there's a sense in which, in order to understand, we're depicting. It's the language just has visuals. Now, so what you do is you take the visual language in the Bible and you put it in visuals, and it is nuanced in a Jewish way there. And it is true, you get this man here who's spellbound.
Yeah,
just with
that's
the hand
the word.
Of God.
That's the word. His eyes are gripped. He can't look at anything but God.
Yeah.
So I want you to know that the picture. I remember Rachel Wolf telling me this years and years ago. Not telling me personally, she was teaching at a conference, and she talked about how God in creation, he put his finger in creation. And, years later, I found another Raskin book, if I can find it here real quick, Another Raskin book, his Genesis book, shows a finger and him swirling and the finger drawing. Like those kind of impressions are so special to me. And oh, here's the one about them wanting to. This is before, right? That's them walking into the land arm in arm.
Yeah.
You know, you'd see it like on posters and things back then that they were able to make. But
Yeah.
but also in this book, because of the timing of it, they also personify. I was amazed when I saw that there was someone praying for. Yeah, see if I can find this one. Okay, you know how we pray for healing? We had a huge discussion about whether or not to put angels with wings in our Bible or not. I actually remember bringing it to the theologians and trying to figure out whether or not we wanted our angels to have wings. And so back here in these pictures, there's like the angel of death there is taking this person away, and they're obviously suffering and being comforted by an angel. Like, is that like I didn't even know that faiths, like, it's interesting to me what you believe because of what you're taught.
Yeah, and there's an example, by the way, of a Christian telling that's a Jewish telling that's influenced by Christian culture. The whole notion of
Exactly.
winged angel. The word angel in Hebrew, malak, comes from lak. It's a Ugaritic verb meaning to send. It's a messenger. It's a dispatch. It's in Greek and Hebrew. It's the same word for angel as it is for messenger. You see appearances in the Hebrew Bible where an angel appears. It's not like the wings are tucked in under the cloak somewhere. The whole idea of angels with wings comes late. If you look at pathways through the Bible, and if you want to look at angelology, you want to look at the various passages in the literature that depict angels, the whole winged motif is much later toward the end of the Bible. It didn't exist in consciousness. You have the only appearance of it that I recall in the Hebrew Bible. In the book of Daniel, there's a struggle, and it says Daniel flew. He made haste to get to Michael, I believe it was. And there's the picture there of him swiftly moving like going through the air. And that's the genesis of the depiction of an angel with a wing.
Okay, that's crazy. That's so good to hear.
And so what happens is, if you look at Christian art, whether it's in various visual media, whether it's in stained glass, whether it's fresco, painting in different forms, or even sculpted, it kind of took off with the winged motif.
Oh yeah.
And there's an example of
it flowing backward,
of a modern Jewish, depiction that's kind of co-opting the tradition in modern culture.
One of the ones I love is that Abraham, a lot of pictures of Abraham, especially by this artist, show the stars in the sky moving. So it shows them with tails. They're moving all the time, which this just blew my mind. So I started drawing stars moving, right? Because it just was this thing that I really got into for a minute there. And while I was doing it, I realized that it's not the stars that are moving, we're moving, the earth is moving. So if you set a time lapse if you set a time lapse camera to watch the stars, it ends up looking like concentric circles over time lapse because we're the one turning. It's not the stars that are moving, it's us that are moving. But to show the stars moving in a picture I still think is a healthier way to look at stars, because stars are moving and everything in the universe is moving. Even my cell phone is moving. The molecules inside it are moving. There's this centripetal force that keeps the world keeps moving as we keep spinning in the galaxy. So I love the idea that the stars are moving, because if the stars are static, then you make gods out of the stars by making constellations. So I love that idea in Jewish art, that the stars are moving. See if I can find that picture for you at some point. But it's amazing to me that when you look at, here it is, there it is. See, they show the stars moving in arcs. And he does a lot of them. And I find it fascinating, because once you make pictures out of the stars, you're into astrology. And it's just a different, and then the 12 tribes turn into zodiac symbols and everything gets wonky.
Well, I differentiate personally between astronomy and astrology.
Right.
Astrology is, you know, interwoven with philosophical, mystical ideas.
Right.
Astronomy could just be a hard science.
Right.
So I'm very appreciative of astronomy. In fact, I've gone out to Star Watch parties with professors
Have
in
you?
astronomy. You know, they open up the planetariums at colleges. They bring out the telescopes. And
Oh,
you
I
go
bet
there,
it's awesome.
and you just look, and it's a religious experience. I think, by the way, that moderns, we live in cities, and you have an inordinate amount of light.
I was just thinking that.
You have atmosphere that's polluted.
That's right.
But if you want to go back in time when you don't have ambient light emerging from cities and you have clear skies, it's like a fantastic light
It's
show out there.
unbelievable. I have a friend of mine that I go out, I go visit the Keys and my favorite thing in the world to do is be out on water so far that you can't see the sky from the water, where it looks like it's just a haze and there's no line, And so when my friend who has a boat, we go out there and check it out, and then every friend, anybody I take with me to go visit, one of the first things we do is go stargazing. And at night, when there's no light anywhere, those stars look like sequins. They look like sequins. Like you can see the sparkle of the light on the water, and it looks like diamonds. But if you look at the sky out where there's no light pollution, it's just so gripping how enormous the heavens are compared to us. It is a spiritual experience.
Right.
I agree with that.
And all that's lost to moderns who we don't have time to look up from our cell phones,
Never mind looking up that high.
But certainly to the ancients. And in biblical literature too, in Psalms, the heavens declare the glory of God. Firmaments proclaim God's handiwork. The heavenly bodies themselves.
Yay, treats!
Thank you.
So I want to. So along with doing the art for the TLV, I want to show you a picture that and for the record, I literally have hundreds and hundreds of pictures. We could sit here and talk about art, ad infinitum. You're going to eat? Okay, great. I love that idea. But this picture here I ended up being so moved by it that I ended up having Michael do a rendition of this for our Bible, and I'll get ours out in a minute. But this Bible, this blew my mind because I didn't even know the Jewish people believed in a devil. Like I never heard it talked about at Mark's house with his family. But this idea that there's an angel on one shoulder and a demon on the other, that you have to make a choice. What do you think?
It's called Yetzer Hara and Yetzer Hatov.
Yetzer Hara?
Yetzer is inclination. Yetzer Hara, Ra, the evil inclination, the good inclination. That's how Judaism construes the human state.
I agree 100%.
If you wanted to explore a Jewish view of anthropology, a biblical anthropology, there's humankind, and there's Yetzer Hara, Yetzer Hatov. There's the evil inclination, there's the good inclination. And we're kind of battered about which are we going to follow. Are we going to do the right thing or the wrong thing? And there are these moral choices that present to us. And success in life is predicated upon doing the right stuff.
Right.
I liken it to the old Bugs Bunny cartoons where little angel, Bugs sees some carrots there he wants to steal, and the angel goes, "Bugs, don't do it." And then Pop, a little demon, "Bugs, no one's going to say.
No one's going to say, do it.
Bugs has to make a decision, and that's what that's depicting.
Yeah, and I think it's fascinating because instead of fighting against an adversary all the time, I feel much more personally inclined to check where I'm at in the situation and try to make a choice that's for life. I mean, that's where there's a really great scripture that says, choose life that you and your seed may live. Like I think about that. I think about the fact that, choice versus life is a losing argument because the Bible says choose life. So I felt like this was a really important picture. And in our Bible, Sim, can I have one of our we have a brand new big giant Bible, and I'm sure it's in there. It's in Proverbs 3, if you want to open it up, Sim. But our depiction of this, we wanted to show So in that picture, it only showed, the devil and the angel. And in our picture, we wanted to show choices. So what we did is on one side of the picture, there's kids drinking, and the buildings are destroyed, and there's seductive people on that side, and on the other side it's family and Shabbat and the Torah, and we wanted to give people. Let me see if I can show it to you. Thanks, babe. Here's our picture of it that Michael did, right? And so the choice is: do you return to what you grew up with, family, life, Shabbat, or do you want to turn toward things that'll tear you down? And I feel like that was important for children, so we also did it. We also did it in the children's. Oh my gosh, we did. We did it in the children's Bible. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot about that, but we did. Because it's something that we wanted kids to understand too. Let me see if I can get to the Proverbs. Here it is. Yay. Look. See, we did it for the kids too. So the kids would understand. So we made sure that his foot is going toward the wrong behavior, but he's twisted and his face is back toward his family. And I feel like that would help a kid to understand that these things are important. So it's crazy to think that, people are like, why, this took you 17 years. Why? It's because we're trying to get a real message across that the Bible's relevant today, that we do have to make choices every day for God, and we have to teach that to our kids too. So I think I love that picture. I love, love, love that picture. Oh, isn't that cool? And he also so Hannah, Sim's wife, when she did this picture, she also took an image here of a man reaching from a pit out of one of the pictures that Michael did in Romans. So I just think it's really cool. But all this imagery, so I think the TLV does have really good imagery in it for parents and children. They can at least have a discussion. Because I think kids do understand that they can choose the right way or the wrong way.
If you look at pedagogy, teaching.
Pedagogy.
The printing press has been around for 500 years. Now, if you ask how long have people been around, a whole lot longer. So yeah. If you ask how did institutions educate when only Spartan few people in various societies were literate?
Right.
They did it through art.
Yeah.
Even these old churches in Europe, peasants would go to. They don't know how to read. They didn't have a Bible. But the artwork in the church tells the story. And they would use it for catechetical purposes. They would explain the art to people, and that was the mechanism by which they explained the Bible story. I have advocated on more than one occasion that the artwork, in so many ways, is the genius of the Tree of Life Bible. More than the language. You'll always get scholar to haggle over how to do a word. And I think we make a contribution in that regard. So look at the good news through the eyes of the Jews. But the artwork, to me, is just a real selling point.
I never knew you felt that way.
Oh, I did, yeah.
Because that's the only thing it's funny, but I can show you in my, it makes me cry. When I was, every decision that we made about the TLV for those 16 principles, like using Adonai for Yud-Heh Vav-Heh, the reason that came about is because of this little book. And I went through it, and every time I saw the word Lord with a capital L, I then looked for Lord with a small l. And then, every step toward the things that for me needed to be clarified got wrapped up into the TLV. And now that it's been out for, a decade or so, I'm amazed that these things that we did intrinsically, that people they blink over it. They don't realize that was an intentional thing. But all of those make such a huge difference to me to understand it and put it back in context. And I do think that the art is what kept me motivated. Every single time there was no money to do anything, every single time, I'd think up another picture, and Michael would draw me another picture, and I'd get a head of steam again. But the artwork inspires me to want to communicate with people.
Listen, I know this segment's, going to run out of time. I'm a student, not just a teacher. And this year, all my emphasis for my PhD work in Cambridge is the language of statistics. It's very right brain, formulaic, and all the rest. Last year, my energies were all in neuroscience, and I was interested in art. And I could go on and on to talk about art and what it does with the brain and how the brain captures more with art than just with words. It just very, very. Anyway.
That's the thing that, but right now, as we're speaking, what I'm working on is I'm finishing a 90-piece art journal from Genesis to Revelation that helps me talk about the Bible in more open and inviting ways than another Bible study. And so I was finishing up, I'm working probably 6 hours a day on it, and I've been working on it for 5 years. So I'm getting really close to publishing it. And I had started with just the first set of drawings and talking to Jonathan Burness about them. And we were learning things together, talking about it. There's something about talking about the artwork that just opens your mind to seeing more of God in the white space, between the letters. It's critically important to my understanding of God is to see him in those pictures. So yeah, I want to talk about art all the time with you, everyone. What's your favorite picture in our Bible? Do you have a favorite?
Probably the Word became flesh.
Yeah, right? It's a great
Probably
picture.
that,
Yeah, it's a great picture. And
it's what elicits. Barry and I begin the day. Barry's my wife. We will pick a book in the Older Testament. We use the TLV. We'll do a chapter in the book and go through. We'll pick a book in the New Testament, a chapter, and then we'll do Proverbs. If it's the 13th day of the month,
we'll
read
the
Proverbs
13th.
13.
I do it every day.
14th to 14th. And what we'll do is just read the chapter, and then what elicits, what emerges.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's what comes out of it. Now, if you look at the Bible, a third of it's poetry. It's painting on the mind anyway. It's pictures. But yeah, I get it. You open up a Bible, you look at a picture that gives a window, offers a telling of the text. What do you think of that? What do you think it means? Just this morning, in fact, Barry, the more so than me, was a little predisposed to kind of rush through it because it's like in the morning, there's other things in your mind. You gotta do. And I said, look, let's slow down because once we get busy, we don't talk to each other. We do talk, but it's just beautiful to have an open Bible and then what do you think about this and that? And then, of course, we apply it to the troubles of the day or circumstances. And it's just a great way for people to discover each other.
Yeah.
Not just to discover the literature.
It's the thing the thing that is amazing to me is that when I get together and talk with people about the Bible, I feel like time slows down. I feel like when you get in that sacred space where the Bible's open and God's in your conversation, there's room that he makes to grow, and it's almost akin to a time warp for me, that he expands that time, and then he'll help me pick up time on the road I wasn't expecting. Like I don't ever lose time when I spend time with God. And sometimes, the downside of that is sometimes you can get lost in your Bible and be gone for 8 hours like I get with artwork about the Bible. But it's worth it to me because the other side of that is a great return on investment, And
it reminds me, too, when my kids grew up, me and the missus were just looking at each other. It used to be so much of the conversation was associated with managing the kids and all that entails in running a household.
Mm-hmm.
What happens when the boys grow up and now there's girls that are more interesting to them than their mother?
Sure.
The world changes, so we're looking at each other. And Patty, may she rest in peace, she died of cancer, got me into ballroom dancing, got us into ballroom dancing, because she said we need to do something together, because we don't have doing kids together like we used to. But what about reading the Bible together too? We didn't have a devotional life like that then. Patty loved the Lord more than I did.
Yeah.
But I'm more of an intellectual than a pietist.
What's a pietist?
There's the simple religious disciplines of prayer and fasting and Bible reading. I'd rather think something through than pray it through. I'm oriented that way because I'm an intellectual. It's what I am. But we grow a little. I'm 68 now, and I'm a little more serious about talking to God because I know I'm going to be seeing Him soon.
That's a good way to end the show. So talk to God because you're going to be seeing Him someday. Might as well get to know Him. You're hilarious.
He'll say, "Hey, Jeffrey, you've been with me for years. It's nice to hear your voice." I mean, I'm
so
overstating that, But the point is, an open Bible is just a great way for couples to rediscover each other.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, if I don't know who's watching this, but if that's what you get out of this, take it and run with it. Because we're social creatures, and what's better than to develop a social life in conjunction with a religious life?
Yeah, because you find and you read, and God makes you think about things uniquely, and especially between a couple, we're just wired differently, so we see different things on top of it. So it's just really been good, and I'm so grateful for you coming and hanging out with me. We're going to probably take a break, and we'll come back and maybe talk a little more. But for now, if you want to remember to pick up your app. And by the way, there's 3 different sets of artwork on your Bible app. If you open up your Bible app and you go all the way to your extras button, you're going to see there that there's 3 different art collections. There's the art in the kids book, the art in the large Bible, and then there's the art scroll I'm working on. So all of those are available to you, and I encourage you to find out more about Bible art. We're going to probably keep talking about it because it's my favorite subject ever. Have a great day. Shalom.